Back in the Penateller Theater, we take a look at our never-tamed moment, that last big hand between these two combatants. Reese flopped top pair at top kicker. Farber turned to pair, but then Reese rivered trip aces, and with the big bet, Farber got away from the hand wisely. Still a big swing, but it could have been a lot worse, Antonio.
Oh, yeah.
And it could have gone the other way, you think?
I mean, yeah, that was a really interesting pot. I mean, Farber got lucky to suck out on the turn, and then Reese re-sucked on the river. That was a huge, huge swing.
Raised to $2 million.
Farber with the re-raise. And Farber will take it. Our graphic backwards there for you. So Farber trying to recover.
It's a good river for you.
They speak?
River? Yeah.
Well, one of them spoke and the other smiled. Jay referencing the good ace on the river.
You see in the last 10 years, 7 times the younger player has won when they get heads up. And
2.5 million.
To our records, the last 5 straight, and Reese, the younger of the two players.
It's a young man's game. Sorry, Norman, you got no outs now.
Well, me and Lon know that we were done 15 years ago, and even then we had no outs.
Our only hope is for us to get heads up against each other at the main event.
Yeah, well, the seniors main event would have to have 2 entries for us to get heads up against each other. This, however, it's such a young man's game. This will be the 6th straight year that a 20-something has won the main event.
Jay Farber told me that at one point later in the main event, I believe it was after the money bubble burst, he was sitting next to Doyle Brunson. Doyle leans over to him and says, "I don't know how you guys do this. I feel like I've been run over by a truck." Farber with a raise to $2 million.
Call.
Reese will come along.
I think Farber has to be a little bit frustrated at this point to come in with the chip leader and is now not super dominated, but not in the greatest spot.
Yeah, 3-2 chip lead right now for Ryan Reese.
Which is a pretty big advantage.
Reese checks the board of 9, deuce 10, couple of clubs.
Bet $2 million.
Farber on the button. That's over $2 million. Reese will give it up. And at this point, Farber with the suited ace. At this point, for Reese, it's so important in any mano-a-mano battle. Once you get an advantage, you have to really keep the pedal down and keep your opponent down.
Yeah, you really have to keep hammering. I mean, when you have a big chip advantage, it's a devastating position to be in for your opponent. And so when you get a lot of chips, you can't slow down. You have to just keep hammering.
By the way, it's interesting. Both these players are chewing gum. Jeff Lissandro, a long time ago, used to chew gum to regulate his breathing, and so he wouldn't give away as much.
To 2.5
And both of these guys going with the gum chewing here early in the heads up.
Call.
Reese with the raise, Farber with the call.
Looks like a slightly less confident Farber. He looks a little beaten.
No, he was shaken in the foundation with a big pot that he lost there.
Yeah, that ace really hurt him, and it's funny because if that ace doesn't come, he's gonna win a big call off of Reese. That's what you call a super dry board. It's very unlikely that Farber has any piece of that, so 90% of the time Reese is just gonna win here.
$3 million from Reese after Farber checked it.
And sometimes 10% comes true.
Also during heads up, we talked about the players being able to talk to their buddies, their rails. Heads up, you just don't have that many opportunities. At a full ring game, you have chances to go over, fold, and go over and talk for a minute or so. But heads up, you are under the bright lights every hand.
That is absolutely correct. And now Farber called a raise pre-flop and called a bet on the flop on a 3-3-7 board. So that tells me he has to have at least an ace in his hand. Maybe a 7. I think it's unlikely he has a 3.
Farber checked as he did after the flop. Reese bets as he did after the flop. This time it's $5 million.
So if he was calling with an ace high hand, say he has ace 8 or something like that, it's pretty hard for him to call here again on the turn. Now he's got.
Getting involved in another big pot.
So now this is really interesting. He would never ever do this with just a 7 in his hand. He has to have a 3 or a bigger pair. So that's basically what he's representing. Now whether he has it or not is an entirely different story. You know, what hand does he have where he called a raise in the big blind that has a 3 in it? Maybe ace 3, possibly 3-4 suited, 3-5 suited, but then really did he check call the flop and now check raise the turn? Is that really how he wanted to play it?
A raise to almost 13.5 million from Jay Farber as he's pulling every trick out of the bag to try to get his chips back from Ryan Reese.
So yeah, so this is one of those really interesting spots where Farber either has a very good hand or a very, very big bluff. And you know, a lot of times when people lose pots, they get frustrated and they come out with a very bad bluff. And there is a chance that this is one of those spots.
Farber told me that he came in and he feels he's got the reputation of a reckless young player willing to fool around a lot. Last night, though, we saw him playing very solid poker. And I'm not sure really that.
Yeah, but you know, even if Reese has, there's a lot of hands that Reese will call here with. Just given exactly what I just said, that it doesn't really make any sense.
9 of spades, 38 million chips in the middle after Reese made that call. Reese won the last big confrontation just a few moments ago. And Reese sitting very tall in his chair, looking confident.
He just flexed his arms a little as he eyes his chip stack and figures out a chip size to bet here.
Farber needs a lot.
I don't know. I don't know if I like this. I think that Reese might pick off Farber here.
And you seem to smell a rat in Jay Farber's hand.
We saw Farber really commit himself against J.C. Tran last night with pocket 6s. Is this another one of those moments?
A bet and a glare from Jay Farber.
This is a very big decision for Reese. I mean, really, he's only got a 3 or a stone cold bluff. There's a chance he picked up a flush draw on the turn and missed, and is now firing because he has no other way out.
It's a big bet, too.
There's no way he would do that with just a 7. I mean, God only knows, but it wouldn't make any sense.
I mean, not only the number of chips, but the relationship to the pot. That was a big bet.
Huge bet. I'm not sure if he has it.
Yeah, Jay bets 2/3 of the pot.
Reese feeling uncomfortable now. Farber's really ratcheted up the pressure.
I mean, he looks calm. His neck is not moving. His beat looks okay, so he looks kind of calm to me. If he was bluffing here, I think there would be more movement in his neck. But the hand just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
You think Farber has it, or?
That's a tough one. I think if I had to bet, I would think that he does not have it.
But could you still make the call?
It's the tough part. I mean, you know, if you think he doesn't have it, then, you know, even if you have ace queen, you just got to call. But he did call the flop, and he did check raise the turn, and he did make a big bet on the river.
If Reese does make this call and Farber does have it, Jay will regain the chip lead.
One of the tenets of no limit hold'em is that the chips are your ammunition. They do you no good sitting in the stack. You have to put them to work, and Jay Farber has done just that.
I love that these guys are out there just slugging it out. 62 million chip pots.
And number 23 of heads up.
This is a very big decision for Reese, because if he calls and he's wrong, he's now given up a massive chip lead to Farber and will clearly be the underdog. He believes he's a better player. He believes he can chip away at him. So if he's in a spot where it's kind of close, he doesn't really want to take that risk. But he's thinking the same thing I'm thinking.
Well, Reese
it just
knows,
doesn't really make any sense. I mean, he's got a 3 or he doesn't. There's a very small chance he has pocket deuces. I think he's going to talk himself into a call, and I think it's probably going to be right.
An opportunity waiting for Ryan Reese.
This is clearly where I would say something and just hope to God that my opponent starts talking. And I think that Jay Farber is the kind of guy to start talking. He likes to chat it up. He's very confident in himself. I think that if Reese sparks up a conversation, he's going to get some banter out of Farber. And, you know, that's when you can really find out what your opponent has.
Really, Jay?
Here we go.
That's a big bet.
Took him 3 minutes and 15 seconds to construct that question. You're right, Antonio. Ryan Reese's mindset is identical to yours regarding what Jay Farber has right now. It's either a 3 or nothing. And he's leaning towards nothing.
Wow.
This could almost be the main event right here.
This is really probably the biggest hand they're going to play.
Where we stand right now, there is no shot clock in poker. Reese can take as much time as Farber will give him. As he gazes over at Farber, he gazes over the millions of dollars.
There's almost no difference between having aces or pocket eights here for Reese, because his opponent clearly has a bluff or 3 threes. I think he's going to call him. I think it's right.
Part of the time that he takes is to see if Farber breaks down in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, look, the longer you take, it's a total free roll to try and get more information out of your opponent. But I got to give credit to Farber. He's holding it together very well. If he is actually bluffing, he looks pretty calm and confident. It's the action of the hand that makes me think he's bluffing, but his demeanor and his calmness makes me want to go the other way. So I think it's kind of close, but I think in the end I'd probably pay him off. But then again, I'm a POW. I like to pay off. Pay off wizard. They never have it, Lon. They never have it.
I know that's what you think.
They just never have it.
Think. Farber sitting as Chris Moneymaker sat 10 years ago when his big bluff against Sammy Farha, and he does lay it down to Farber. Oh my goodness, didn't have it. Wow. What a poker moment for Jay Farber.
I mean, it didn't make any sense. And when it doesn't make any sense, you just have to go with it.
And that was close to the moneymaker Farha moment of 10 years ago. Cristo could hide behind his sunglasses. Jay Farber couldn't. Ryan Reese so close to pulling the trigger for what his heart knew was the case, and he couldn't do it.
Reese had the best hand with a pair of sevens, but it was that huge bet on the river by Jay Farber that brings him back into the chip lead, and we're almost even again.
And by the way, when he finds out about that hand in 15 minutes, he is going to be in a world of pain. I mean, that was basically game over if he makes that call. Basically game over. And he was thinking the same exact thing I was thinking. And, you know, it's a lot easier for me to say I'm going to call sitting here in the booth when I have nothing at stake.
You just look at Ryan Reese's face right now. He feels shell-shocked. He has that, I don't know if it's a glow on his face or a glimmer in his eyes. He's still thinking about that last
His complexion is definitely a little more red. I think he's a little bit steamed, and he's going to be a lot more steamed when he finds out what Farber had.
By the way, Jay Farber has been chewing gun at a feverish rate since the hand ended. Just what a relief emotionally for him to get away with the bluff.
And what a bluff it was.
2.2 million.
What a bluff. I have to give the guy a lot of credit. That takes a lot of heart
He's got some great coaches. November Niners, Ben Lamb, Jesse Sylvia, Sean Deeb out there helping him too, along with Marvin Rettenmeyer, and just an all-star cast. And the Jack pairs the board as well.
Check, check.
Check, check. Who's got high card?
And ace is probably going to take this one.
And it is Reese with the high card, and he will take it down with queens and jacks and the ace kicker. But little consolation for the 23-year-old. And so we are just about even once again. Jay Farber with the bluff of this century here in the main event as he gets Ryan Reese to fold the best hand with a lot of chips at stake. Final table action on Monday was fast and furious, as fast as the traffic out in front of the Rio. We talked about that big bluff 10 years ago that vaulted Chris Moneymaker into his championship. Here it is.
I'm all in. Chris is all in.
Chris Moneymaker going all in with nothing.
A stunning play from Moneymaker, who missed his draws, has nothing, and now has put Sam Farha all in.
He is not going to do it. Chris Moneymaker bluffs Sam Farha out of a big stack of money.
And considering this situation, I know we're early in the century, but that's the bluff of the century.
So a very similar moment takes place here, heads up at this championship table. A moment that Sammy Farha let slip through his fingers, and the same with Ryan Reese.
And in Sammy's case, he didn't recover from that. Shortly after, he's all in. Chris Moneymaker had flopped 2 pair against the the bigger pair from Farha, and it was all over Chris Moneymaker in the history books.
You want to know now or in 5 minutes?
What's that?
So do you want to know now or in 5 minutes?
Sure, you can tell me now.
6 high?
6 high?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
That's
sir.
close.
That was very
You
sporting
want
of
to tell
Jay
me now or you
Farber.
want me to wait?
I just 7.
Jay couldn't wait to get that one out.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding. The only advantage Ryan Reese has on Sammy Farha is that the chip stacks are still fairly even and early in the going here.
And by the way, I think it's very small, but I don't think Jay should have told him right then and there. I think because they're playing heads up, maybe he doesn't get up and run over there and talk to his friends.
He's going to know.
I mean,
that's the first thing he
he's
wants to know
eventually
is the
going to
minute
find
he
out.
can.
That's true, but you can still play 2 more hands without him knowing.
Okay.
He was dying to tell the secret.
He couldn't
Yeah,
hold it in.
Could not help
you
himself.
nailed it,
He
Antonio.
couldn't hold it in.
He had 6 high. He had 6 high. Or so he says. No good. Not this one.
I mean, why would I lie? You're going to find out in 5 minutes. That's why I said, do you want to know now or do you want to wait?
Yeah. No, I believe you.
Farber deserves a lot of credit for his composure. I mean,
Nice,
he looked
Aaron.
Thank you, sir.
pretty confident during that bluff.
Yeah, he had to sit there for more than 5 minutes. He was virtually
You
motionless.
didn't want to show it? Why not show it?
You were going to find out anyway.
Yeah. For the fans, though.
Yeah, but they'll find out anyway, too.
True.
And in a way, that really breaks the tension, I think, on Reese's fold. It might get him off the hook a little bit mentally, but still he knows he had it if he could make the call. Wild Turkey payouts, just 2 left. 5.1 million for second place, 8.3 million for our champion tonight, along with the $500,000 gold bracelet, the title of world champion.
Thank you.
And you will represent the game of
later.
poker anywhere you play.
Good for me.
Glad you are here with us tonight on ESPN, and stick with us until we do crown a champion. We've got a full team. Marianella Pereira and Phil Hellmuth will come at us if we get to the break. Antonio Esfandiari, Norman Chad here in the booth, Kara Scott out on the floor. I'm Lon McCarron, and it has been a very entertaining championship table right from the first card dealt.
I love it. I mean, I really love it when guys are in there just going at it. And Farber, man, nightclub host turned professional bluffer. That was amazing. That takes a lot of courage. That was really his entire tournament right there. If he gets called, it's pretty much game over. It takes a lot of heart to pull that off.
I still say we just flip for it.
Got the same sack now.
I know. Let's go.
Yeah. Jay says he grew up in pool halls, and all they did there was gamble on everything, and he's still willing to gamble for the extra 3 million plus here. 8.5 million, almost 8.5 million to the winner.
I did not see that side of Santa Barbara when I was living there. I ran with a different crowd, I think.
Yeah, you weren't in libraries either, so I don't know where you were.
Flop of Jack Trey after Farber's raise was called by Reese. Reese checked it over to the button. Jay Farber.
Jay Farber continues with a pretty standard continuation bet. If you're the pre-flop raiser, you almost always take a stab at the flop. And this is a very dry board. It's a very good board to bet at.
Another paired board.
As you mentioned, Lon, Ryan Reese in much better shape than Sammy Farha was after that moneymaker bluff, and Reese didn't even have to go up the chip lead here.
2.2 million from each. Another tray. And we saw this before. Who's got the high card?
Yeah, I mean, even if you have a king in your hand, it's probably good. So Farber raised pre-flop, he bet the flop, right? And now he's firing again on the turn. Basically, he's saying, I'm not even concerned about the 3 or the jack. If he has a hand that has showdown value, but is not a monster, I think he has to be concerned that his opponent might have one of those 2 cards. I mean, he did bet the flop and get called. So there's a reasonable chance that his opponent has one of those cards. So it's probably more likely that he's bluffing. I don't know if Farber would bet an ace here for value on the turn, but he has surprised me so far. So we'll gain more information on the river.
10 of hearts. Now Reese, who would check the flop and the turn, has chips in hand.
This is very interesting. He leads out now. I mean, I think definitely with a 3 in his hand, he's going to lead out.
And Farber gives it up.
Back at you.
Wow. Ryan Reese with the bluff on the river, and Farber gave up the best hand.
Reese takes his 6-5 and takes in a pot, and he's no worse for the wear.
I think Farber has to at least think about it a little bit on the river. I mean, you know, what is Reese? Did Reese really play a jack or a 3 like that?
All right, let's hear what Ryan Reese had to say about the image he thinks he presents at the poker table.
I think that most players probably think I'm really aggressive and kind of crazy because I'm young and just got out of college and have big hair or whatever they think. But in all reality, I'm very like composed and pretty tight. I pick my spots very well, and most people probably would not guess that. As of right now, I'm not very nervous. I'm extremely excited. Come right before, I'm probably going to get butterflies when I walk out on the stage and see all my friends and family there. But as of right now, it's more excitement than nervousness.
2 million from each.
I liked his countenance after he was told that Jay had the 6 high. He seemed in a pretty good way. He comes right back with his own bluff. You know, if he had called and picked off that bluff from Jay, Ryan Reese would have had 150 million chips, and Farber would have been down to 40 million. But he's reacted pretty well right after it, so he is pretty calm and even keeled.
Indeed. And he bets 2.5 million on the Deuce King 9 board after Farber checked, but Farber will commit the same amount of chips, and they've paid to see a turn card. 10 of diamonds.
Check.
2 diamonds, 2 hearts out there. Farber checks again.
It's what you call a draw heavy board. 2 straight flush, I mean 2 flush draws, and straight draws out there.
Check, check, another diamond. So flush out there. A peek at his chips. Jay Farber bets the tray of diamonds.
3.3.
And a quick call over a fold of 3.3 million. pair tens for Farber. Reese had nothing, and he folds. So Jay Farber and Ryan Reese with a tremendous heads-up battle for that bracelet and that money. Back in Las Vegas, the sun has set, but seems like we're just getting underway on our heads-up battle. Let's go down to Kara Scott right now. She's with a man who knows a little something about what Reese and Farber are going through. Kara?
Well, Greg Merson is going to be the world champion, but not for much longer as we are here heads up. Look back at a year ago. How much were you conscious of how big this moment was when you were sitting at heads up?
Well, it was a little different for me because we went so long three-handed, and by the time they put the money on the table, I was so delirious that it didn't seem as real as it was. So for these guys coming back, it's a little different. They're coming back with the money on the table fresh, and I'm sure they're a lot more nervous than I was last year.
It's been quite a year for you even since then. Give whoever wins one piece of advice, how to deal with becoming the biggest ambassador in this game.
Yeah, it's important to, you know, stay true to who you were before you won, and whoever was there before you won are the most important people. And if you ever get too overwhelmed with stuff, just make sure to, you know, maybe stay home for a week or two, because you're going to be on the road a lot, and it's just part of the gig, and there's really nothing to prepare you for it. So whoever wins, I'm sure one of these guys will be good at taking over the crown.
That is some very sound advice from Greg Merson. Now let's get back to the table.
Maybe they should have a World Champions Club. You know, there is like a President's Club where current presidents can get advice from past presidents, and it's great to get back and find out really what you're going to go through from somebody who has gone through it.
And recently, Greg Raymer and Joe Hashem would be great to run that club. Just terrific ambassadors around the world.
Reese now extending his chip lead just a little bit. Heads up, you can look. As we have seen, any two cards can be played. Any two cards can win. And flopping top pair, a massive hand, as you know.
I mean, it's hard to make a hand, especially a pair. And if you flop the top one, it's usually good heads up.
Flopping any pair is a very good hand. But top pair certainly is super strong. Reese with a race at $2.5 million. You see the chip counts have pretty much reversed each other, both with King Deuce, reverse each other from where we started, but we've been a long way from where we started to get back to where
spectator sport.
We were.
I said poker's the best spectator sport.
Oh, it is. It's a great spectator sport. You got the right crowd. You guys got the right crowd.
Reese, we get to pick a big one.
So in just about almost 49 minutes, the lines will be going up 600,000, 1.2 million, and 200,000 will be the ante.
We have a raise to 2 million.
Farber with a raise to 2 million. It's a minimum raise. The big blind is 1 million.
3-bet town.
We have a re-raise to 5 million.
Reese likes that 5 million number.
I mean, Reese is obviously picking up the fact that Farber hasn't folded a button and is raising every single button opportunity that he has. And so you should definitely expect to see some 3-betting. Looks like we have 4-betting chips here.
And we have a re-raise.
Farber looking very strong. Well, he looks very strong with anything he does, but
6 high, he looks pretty strong.
Now showing strength with a raise to 8.8 million.
So even though Reese is getting a good price, you know, he only has to call 3.8 million to win a really big pot. You know, earlier we talked about how he was getting a good price, but he had position.
3.8 more.
And now, if you call here, you don't have position. Playing a pot out of position is gross. But I think that he believes he can outmaneuver Farber.
And there is a call from Ryan Reese as the pot swells once again.
We have a big one stewing.
Almost 18 million, and now we're going to see a flop. 4-8 tray.
That flop isn't really supposed to hit either player. I mean, they're both raising pre-flop, and so it's unlikely that they hit that flop. I mean, it's definitely possible, but I don't.
Farber might have an up and down straight.
I don't imagine either player has a 4 or a 3 in their hand. Probably not even an 8.
So
probably more likely that they have bigger cards.
As often the case in heads up, it's roll up your sleeves and see who feels like taking the pot down more.
Right. I mean, if Reese just called with, say, Queen Jack suited or 2 big face cards, you know, what is he going to do now? It's kind of a gross spot. If he check raises, he's basically representing a set. He wouldn't do that with just an 8. He would always just call with an 8 out of position. So, you know, it's really interesting spot. Even if he has a hand like Ace Jack, a lot of times it's the best hand, but what do you want to do here? You want to just call out of position and then what? Check on the turn when another blank comes, and then what? That's why position is so powerful. Jay gets to act after Reese on every single street.
You saw the close-up of Jay Farber. He's had a lot of practice sitting there like a statue.
So I feel like Reese probably has a pair in his hand.
He does make the call of 6.7 million. Deuce of hearts, and this pot big enough to.
Now, if Farber checks on the turn, that's a huge sign of weakness.
Let's see if he looks at his chips. Yep.
So clearly he's representing a big pair. He 4-bet pre-flop, he bet the flop, and now he's firing the turn. So basically he's trying to say, I have kings, queens, you know, jacks, something like that.
Well, with Reese having full knowledge of the earlier bluff as well.
Right, of course that's going into play.
Speaking of that earlier bluff, I could have sworn the Farber crowd right there was serenading a 6-high chant.
Is that what that was?
Maybe aimed towards Ryan Reese. I might have misheard it.
Wow, 13.6 million. That would be something to have the chance of 6 high. Of course, as we were talking about, you know, 5-6 would be an excellent hand here at this point. Ryan Reese once again with his feet to the fire. Frank Reese, Ryan's father.
And best friend.
I mean, Reese could even have a pair of 9s in his hand. I mean, if he had a pair of 9s, I don't think he'd want to play a super all-in pot pre-flop against someone who he thinks he can run over. So I think he probably has 9s.
That's a call of 13.6 million. You saw the shiver go through Ryan Reese's crowd behind him. River card now. 7 of spades. Reese checks again.
And Reese would love a check back here.
Yes, let's go.
And it is Reese with jacks. Just a pair of 4s for Farber, and Reese will take down this huge pot. He got him back.
9s, jacks.
You called it. You thought he had a pocket pair.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way he's holding on like that without a pair. I mean, that was a huge blow to Jay Farber, by the way.
And just a few hands after the 6-high bluff, Ryan Reese has put himself back almost in the same position, now more than a 2-to-1 chip lead.
Ryan Reese with over 134 million. This is what is at stake tonight. The amateur Jay Farber on the run of his life. Ryan Reese, the youngest competitor at the final table, trying to finish it off. He said he was the best. And those are the payouts. 8.3 million for first, over 5.1 million for second. This is the World Series of Poker main event presented by Wild Turkey. The 2013 main event will go to one of these two final combatants. Ryan Reese with a big chip lead right now. Jay Farber with a lot of work to do.
Ryan, go ahead.
I just think looking back at the hand, you know, on the turn, Farber had a pair of 4s, a gut shot, and an ace to make 2 pair. I think it's a better spot to check back when he knows his opponent probably hasn't beat. So I think he made a pretty big mistake in the pot there.
2 million from each, all diamonds in the flop. Ace, 5, 9. Do you like the check on the river by Reese? Better safe than sorry at that point?
Of course. I mean, if your opponent's bluffing, you don't want to take that away from him. And so a lot of times, even when you have a good hand, I mean, jacks is a very good hand there. If your opponent is bluffing, with you betting, you're not going to get any more money out of it.
A bet from Reese and Farber folds.
Reese was an honors student in high school in Waterford, Michigan. He's now an honors student at the November 9 in Las Vegas.
So Ryan Reese once again taking control, but this has been a back and forth battle so far. What will happen next? Back inside the Penn and Teller Theater as we continue our coverage. Heads up of the 2013 World Series of Poker main event championship table. From a field of over 6,300, we are now down to just our final two. In the last five of the last 6 years, Heads Up chip leader went on to win. He is Hines, exception in 2011. And as we began this Heads Up battle, it was Jay Farber who was the chip leader, but he is the one with the makeup work to do.
A lot of makeup work. I mean, he's a pretty big underdog right now. He has a big deficit to make up.
You had 6-5 too, right? Yeah. It's a good hand. It is.
$2 million from each. Once again, we'll see a flop. A couple of kings and a 9, 2 clubs.
A lot of paired boards on the flop of this final table.
Check to Farber.
2.2.
Farber has the job of trying to regain the trust of Ryan Reese after having a couple of bluffs and you know, now you wonder, does Reese respect anything that
I think
Farber puts out there?
I think that if anything, Reese just has more confidence and really believes he's going to outplay Farber here.
Ace of clubs on the turn. There's 2.2 million from each after the flop, building the pot to 8.7 million. Farber was called on the flop.
2.8.
And now he puts out 4.8 million.
I'm sorry, 4.8.
Man, each and every single decision is so crucial to Farber's stack here. He's basically saying the ace of clubs doesn't scare me at all. I still have a good hand because he bet the flop. Now the ace of clubs comes on the turn, puts a very big card out there, and also a club, which completes the flush. So should give away some information about his hand.
River card. Tray of diamonds. Check from Reese.
And it's a repeated pattern. Reese letting Farber do what he wants to do and then making a decision.
Check, check. Farber with the aces up, and he will take the pot.
Both of these players in their first main event. Farber with virtually no tournament results before this. His only recorded tournament cashes came in a 5-day period in 2010. At a Venetian tournament here, it was 115 entrants, $500 buy-in. He won $1,000. And then 4 days later, another Venetian tournament, 190 entrants, $300 buy-in. He won another $1,000. Virtually nothing.
The VIP host here in Las Vegas is your connection to good times. If you can take his call after this main event.
I think his prices went up.
Yeah, indeed. Owns the a very tricked out 69 Camaro.
Well, he says the VIP job is actually tougher than it looks. It's very competitive out there. Everyone's looking for a deal. And the thing is, sometimes you have to party with your clients. That's a lot of partying. And Jay should remember. Do you remember Frank Lopez's lesson number 2 from Scarface?
What was that?
Don't get high on your own supply.
Oh, exactly.
Lesson number 2 is very important.
Lesson number 2. A raise from Reese, a call from Farber. Another paired board, 2 sixes and a 9, 2 spades.
And nobody ever hits anything, as you say, Antonio, and paired boards make it even more unlikely that anybody hits the board.
That is absolutely true. It's really hard to make a hand and hold them.
We have a bet of 2.5.
A check from Farber initiates a bet from Reese of $2.5 million, and there's the call. Five of clubs. Check from Jay.
And it's interesting because he's really distracted by the
I
wall.
was noticing that. I was wondering if he was going to say something to them.
You can gain a lot of information with how your opponent bets, and so I would always be looking at my opponent when they're betting or looking at their cards.
Even the physical movement of
Anything,
reaching for the chips.
any little thing can be information.
$5 million from Reese, a familiar bet.
So it's very possible that Farber has a 9 in his hand. I don't think he has a 6 in his hand. If he had a 6 in his hand, I think we would have heard about it by now.
10 of diamonds. Farber has checked the whole way, checks again, check called the whole way, I should say.
And if he had an ace in his hand, I think he would have re-raised Reese pre-flop. He's been 3-betting with almost any ace.
A very casual, large bet from Reese and a quick release of his cards by Farber. So Reese had the 6. So Ryan Reese extending his lead as he tries to have that bracelet on his wrist by the end of the night. Back inside the Penn and Teller Theater, our championship table down to just 2. As we look at our all-time World Series earnings, our buddy Antonio Esfandiari still tops the list with over $21 million based largely on his victory in the $1 million buy-in, big one for One Drop. And you did some work recently in Honduras for the One Drop Foundation. You said that was just amazing.
I mean, yeah, I think it was as close to as a life-changing experience as one can have, because you really learn to appreciate what you have a lot more when you go to a place like Honduras and El Salvador. I mean, we are really fortunate to live where we live and take a shower when you want to take a shower and drink some water when you're thirsty. I mean, you really have to appreciate the little stuff.
Well, congratulations on your work there, and I know the One Drop very close to your heart, and they're not going anywhere. We're going to have another $1 million buy-in.
That's the word on the street.
Yep.
Let's hope Norm signs up.
Are you defending?
Of course. Is the Pope Catholic?
If I get $1 from 1 million different people, I will challenge you.
I like it. 2 million from each. Flop a deuce 9 tray, 2 diamonds.
2.2.
The pattern continues. Reese checks, Farber bets. This time Reese folds. And Farber, bottom pair.
2 pair.
Yep, you're right, I'm sorry.
Top and bottom.
Top and bottom.
Farber started wearing that hat on day 1, the Hakkasan hat, one of the clubs he goes to in MGM Grand. Decided it was his lucky hat, and he wore it for the rest of the main event.
Well, he's going to have to rub a little more magic off that hat to catch Ryan Reese. Reese right now with a chip advantage of $135 million to $55 million. Winning hand, a pocket pair only 13 times in the 44-year history of the main event.
And that pocket pair has never been aces those 13 times.
Hard to get aces.
Aces have lost.
Aces have lost on the final hand a couple of times.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about that a little later, but twice that's happened.
Flop of 7, deuce 6, 2 diamonds. Farber working out of position in this hand now. The button in front of Ryan Reese. He checks.
Ryan checks.
Free turn card. 4 of spades.
Freebie. So it's pretty standard when your opponent checks on the flop for you to fire the turn just because they showed a little bit of weakness. But Reese is a pretty clever player. I wouldn't be surprised if he checked back a smaller pair, some drawing hands. There's a wide range of hands he could check back here.
3.1 million from Farber. Murmur goes through Reese's supporters when he reaches for the big stack of red chips as he raises it up.
$7.7.
You heard him, 7.7.
Well, it doesn't look like Farber wants to go anywhere.
He's cutting out some calling chips. Usually when he touches them, they're in the middle.
He usually touches them with his left arm, and I do believe his left arm is a little larger than his right arm.
He's been working it a lot. This main event.
Without question.
There's the call for 4.6 million more. River card, ace of spades.
It's very possible Farber was just holding on with a single pair hand or a draw. A lot of players don't like to call draws out of position against someone with a bigger stack in position, just because when you miss, you basically just have to give up the pot.
Farber gave up the power with another check, and Reese charged right through
11.5.
the opening.
And by the way, the ace didn't scare Reese at all. He just keeps on firing.
10-5 for Reese. Farber had a worse no pair.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's what happens when you play a hand like that. A draw out of position, right? And you're the last aggressor, or you're not the aggressor. And what do you do when you miss? So I don't like that play at all. I think you have to take the aggression or just give it up.
That is actually a cardboard cutout of Dylan Armstrong, who could not be here tonight. He is the one who gave Ryan Reese his Beast nickname, so he's kind of here, certainly here in spirit, but Ryan Reese living up to that pretty recent nickname from his buddy Dylan Armstrong.
I think that Reese has really taken control of this match, has been doing a great job of reading Farber and really just dominating.
And it's paid off. It's now more than a 3-1 chip lead for Ryan Reese.
Right, he's just completely dominating him.
So that begs the question, does he need to change what he's doing with such a large advantage? Normally an overwhelming chip leader will get a little more active, but can Reese just afford to keep doing what he's doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's doing exactly what he should be doing.
All right, Ryan Reese well on his way to earning the World Championship title, $8.3 million and the gold bracelet.